Hi all, welcome and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want to share more information with you that is coming out in the case of pregnant and murdered Kassanndra Cantrell. I want to go over some of the things that were in the search warrants that I went over in my last video, as well as details that her twin brother gave in an interview and other reports that I've read online. The suspect in this case, Cassandra's ex-boyfriend, Colin Dudley, was formally charged with first-degree murder on September 25th of 2020. This is the one and only time I will state his entire name, because my son's name is Colin. I love that name, and this evil piece of garbage doesn't deserve it. So, from here on out, I will be referring to him just as Dudley. He did enter a plea during his arraignment of not guilty. So many of the comments that I've read online reflect that people seem surprised by this. I'm not. Even though there's a wealth of evidence against him, Dudley would be stupid to just hand it over to them without a fight of some sort. Because even with all the evidence they have against him, they can still make mistakes during the trial, cause a mistrial, or he could be lucky enough to get an incompetent jury who will return a lesser verdict than first-degree murder, or God forbid, flat out find him not guilty if they don't feel the prosecution proved their case beyond a reasonable doubt. Judging from the evidence laid out in the search warrants alone, that may seem impossible, but we can't forget the Casey Anthony case. So, he's rolling the dice, and at this point, anything goes. Now, I want to talk about his first-degree murder charge for a minute, because I learned something from the interview that Cassandra's brother did on another true crime YouTube channel called Web Sleuths. He said that he and his family wish they would have charged Dudley with aggravated murder instead of first-degree murder, because in the state of Washington, if he's convicted of first degree, the maximum time he can serve is 30 years, and he'll probably be paroled after 20. Also, if you're charged with first-degree murder in Washington, you're given bail, as Dudley was in this case. The judge ordered Dudley held on a $2 million bond. According to court documents, if he's able to make bail, the judge said his travel will be restricted to Pierce, King, Kitsap, and Thurston counties, and he was ordered to not have any contact with the victim's family or possess any weapons or guns. Now, her brother said the only way to be sentenced to life without parole in Washington is to be found guilty of aggravated murder, also known as first-degree aggravated murder. He said the victim advocate on this case told him that the prosecution would have to be able to prove one or more aggravating factors in this case in order for them to change the charges against him. I wanted to know what aggravating factors they would need to prove, so I looked it up, and they are extensive. So I won't read them all off to you, but just to give you an idea, an aggravating factor would be if he had escaped from prison and murdered her, if he had solicited another individual to murder her, etc. So, unless they can prove an aggravating factor in this case, which it doesn't look like they'll be able to do, then he will not serve a life sentence for the murder of pregnant Cassandra, even if he is found guilty. Now, for those of you who are yelling at me through your screens that her being pregnant is an aggravating factor, maybe, maybe not. He wasn't charged with the unlawful termination of a pregnancy. Why? I'm not sure, but I have an idea. I read a post online from someone who said they purchased some of the court documents in this case. They posted the following from the Declaration for Determination of Probable Cause. On September 23, 2020, the Pierce County Medical Examiner began the autopsy of the body, which was in an advanced state of decomposition and was mostly skeletonized. There was no soft tissue left on the neck, chest, abdominal, or pelvic cavities. Therefore, the medical examiner was not able to confirm that the victim had been pregnant at the time of her death. The remains were positively identified as being those of victim Cantrell by dental comparison. So, even though I did read that her doctor made notes that her pregnancy was unplanned, if the coroner was unable to confirm that she was pregnant at the time of her death, then they may not be able to prove it. But everyone knew she was pregnant, you say? He obviously killed her because she was pregnant? Yes, I believe he killed her because she told him that she was pregnant with his child. But that was what we were told in the news because that is what her mother and friend told the police. You may think I'm a jerk for saying the following, but when I research a case, I want facts, not just hearsay. Was she pregnant? Maybe. But did we ever receive solid confirmation that she was? I never saw it. The only thing I read was that her doctor wrote in his notes that her pregnancy was unplanned. I have not seen any source confirming that she actually was, or how far along she was in the pregnancy. She could have told her doctor that she was pregnant and that it was unexpected, so it was included in his notes. I'm a jerk, I know, but I think this is significant in this case, since I feel, and I think we all feel, that it was Dudley's motive for murdering her. So if you feel that questioning what we've been told and digging deeper for the truth in this case is somehow victim shaming, you don't understand what victim shaming is, and you might want to click off now. I'm not one for victim shaming, but I am one for questioning everything and looking deeper into it than what's presented on the surface. Maybe I've seen too much, know too much, and I've become jaded. But when things don't add up to me, I want to know more. I never questioned her pregnancy claim. I believe she was pregnant. But after listening to statements her brother made during his interview, I'm left wondering. And you can blame it on family dynamics, relationships, etc. That's fine. But it's my channel, so I have the right to say when something seems odd to me, like it or not. Cassandra's brother stated in his interview that he found out that she, Cassie, as he calls her, was pregnant after she went missing. He didn't know. Now, he did this interview after her body was found, so at this point I would imagine he's been told everything. This was not done early on when she went missing, when he may not have known much. He said that she told her mother she was pregnant, but she never told her who the father of the child was. He said the only people who knew who the baby's father was were her father, an aunt, and maybe a friend or two. That's it. Well, and the baby's father, of course. And apparently they all kept it from him. So, only a handful of people knew. In all fairness, he said she didn't want him to know because he'd give her grief for it. But she really never planned on telling her own mother who the father was? I don't know. Maybe people do that. But I find that to be odd myself. So, when she asks, she's just told that it's none of her business? I guess. He said he figures she didn't tell her mom because her mom didn't like him when they dated before. He said his mother told Cassie that he was no good, and he looked dead behind his eyes. See? I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Eyes are very telling. People don't believe me, but her mom was on to something. He also said that when he found out Cassie and Dudley were hanging out again, he asked her if anything sexual was going on between them, and she said no way. She said they were just friends, and that he wasn't even attractive anymore because he had put on a lot of weight. He said she told him she would go to his house and they would watch movies in the morning while his girlfriend was at work. So apparently they already worked out a way for her to come and go from his home without being detected on the security cameras for his girlfriend to see. Unless she knew. Now, he made a few more statements that I found to be interesting as well. When asked how far along in the pregnancy Cassie was, because we have no confirmation about that either, he said he was told she conceived back at the end of May on her birthday. Then he said that the pregnancy was unexpected because Cassie would have been careful to use some sort of birth control. Not sure how he knows that, but anyway. He said it was also unexpected because, according to Cassie, Dudley told her in the past that he had had a vasectomy, which he says Dudley must have obviously lied about. Again, deeper down the rabbit hole. In my last video, I discussed that a friend of Cassandra's told police that Cassandra was hesitant to tell Dudley about the pregnancy because he told her he didn't want children. That was the statement that made police look at him as a person of interest. I have a question. If this is true, and Dudley did not want children, then why in the world would he lie about having a vasectomy? Wouldn't that be counterproductive to lie to women if he didn't want children? What would be the purpose in that? Not saying that he didn't lie, but just curious. Just following what I've been told, people. Then he makes a statement that I find to be the most interesting of all. He says that Dudley's live-in girlfriend had been begging him to have a child with her for years, but he said no. Sounds about right, right? I mean, he didn't want kids. But now I have more questions. And please understand that I have the utmost respect for Cassandra's family and what they're going through. They don't deserve it, and I give her brother credit for speaking about it at all, especially so soon after her body was found. I believe everything he stated in that interview to be true to the best of his knowledge. I don't question what he's saying at all. I question how he knows. Because you can't just say things to me that make sense to everyone else and expect me not to question it. I don't know why. It's just how my brain works. So, he knows all of these things about Dudley, even though he himself has had no contact with him, because either Cassandra told him these things, or someone else Cassandra told did. Why is this important? Because the general belief is that Dudley murdered her because he didn't want the child. Where am I going with this? Let's recap what we've been told so far. Cassie and Dudley dated in the past. Cassie informs people that Dudley tells her he doesn't want children and claims to have had a vasectomy. They start hanging out again. She tells her brother that there's nothing sexual going on and that she finds him, frankly ugly was the word her brother said in the interview. They're sneaking around behind his girlfriend's back to see each other. She shares with someone that Dudley's girlfriend begs him to have a child with her, but he refuses. Despite the fact that her brother claims that she would have used birth control, Cassie claims she's pregnant. She won't even tell her own mother who the father of her child is. She doesn't tell her twin brother that she's pregnant. He finds out after she goes missing. I never came across any police reports confirming that she was pregnant after they said that they needed to confirm that information in a press conference. And the coroner says he can't conclude from the autopsy whether she was pregnant or not. Interesting. Dudley's girlfriend wants a child with him so badly, but doesn't have one. And Cassie has birthday sex with a guy she thinks is ugly and has had a vasectomy. She's careful to still use birth control, and yet she still gets pregnant. I believe she was pregnant because they say she had an ultrasound appointment scheduled for the day after she went missing, but I have another question. Cassandra's brother said in the interview that she wasn't going to tell Dudley about the pregnancy at all, but that her father told her that he had a right to know. If she and Dudley were in contact regularly, and they hung out a lot, how was she going to keep the pregnancy from him? Just stop talking to him? Stop hanging out with them? That wouldn't send up red flags that something was up. Was she going to lie to him about who the father was? Maybe. After all, this whole thing has been shrouded in secrecy. But I don't see how she would have gotten away with it. He would have put two and two together, unless he's a total moron, and somehow, eventually, his girlfriend would have found out. The girlfriend, who so desperately wanted to have a child with him, according to Cassie's brother, but couldn't because he wouldn't. It was very interesting to listen to Cassie's brother's interview. I took a lot from it. It gave me a really good idea about what was actually going on in this case. Especially the part when he talked about how Cassie, Dudley, and Dudley's girlfriend Rebecca all knew each other and had known each other for years. He talked all about how Rebecca always had a thing for Dudley and created all kinds of drama while he and Cassie were dating. He said she actually created a love triangle of sorts between them, and Dudley eventually cheated on Cassie with Rebecca, so Cassie left him. He said Rebecca eventually married someone else, but then divorced and got back with Dudley, and they've been together ever since. It's interesting, though, how Dudley and Cassie still hung out behind Rebecca's back, knowing all the trouble she caused in the past about them being together, because she wanted to be with them. I guess they kind of paid her back by seeing each other behind her back, huh? And just think what an incredible payback that would have been, to ever find out that Cassie had his baby when she couldn't. Damn. Just thinking out loud. Not saying that this is what happened at all. I'm just thinking how incredibly tragic it would be for Cassandra to have lost her life because Dudley thought she was pregnant if she wasn't. That's all. But, as I said earlier, she supposedly did have an ultrasound appointment scheduled, so I do believe she was pregnant. I'm just considering all possibilities. I mean, she did tell her brother that she wasn't attracted to him, and she already knew he was in a relationship with Rebecca. So I can't imagine she would have wanted him to leave Rebecca and get back with her because she was pregnant. But, if that's the case, then why did her mother say she showered and made herself up in the morning that she went missing, when she said she wouldn't have made herself up to go to the grocery store? More and more questions, I know. But not sure I'd make myself up for someone I thought was ugly and I wasn't interested in. But that's just me. I also wouldn't sleep with someone I wasn't attracted to, birthday or not. Again, just thinking out loud. In my last video, I talked about how a search warrant in this case revealed that police found Cassie's phone number in Dudley's phone under the name Velma. Interesting, isn't it? Of course he couldn't put her name and number in his phone, because if Rebecca saw it, oh man, not that Cassandra again. He probably told her Velma was somebody from work or something. But that would explain why he had a picture of Cassie in his phone in an orange turtleneck sweater like Velma from Scooby-Doo, because her face was covered, and Rebecca would never know it was Cassandra in the photo. Clever. Aside from being unable to determine whether she was pregnant or not, the News Tribune reported that her autopsy showed that she had been stabbed and suffered skull fractures. Absolutely horrific. I hope they find a way to make him fry for what he did to her. Of course she had no idea that he was going to kill her when he lured her to his house the morning she went missing. But I wonder what he did say to her that gave her a reason to make herself up before she left. She had obviously already told him about the pregnancy, because they have him on security footage leaving his truck at the train station where her car was found and riding away on a bike earlier that morning. So he was already setting the stage to carry out her murder. But her friend said Cassie said Dudley didn't want children. So when she told him that she was pregnant, wouldn't he have been angry? If so, then what could he have possibly said to her to convince her to make herself up and go visit him at his house that morning? She couldn't have been afraid to meet up with them because he was angry, or else she would have told someone where she was going. And how angry could he have been if she wanted to look good for him? Doesn't make sense to me. Even if he told her everything was okay and sweet-talked her into going over after his initial anger, she knew he was still initially angry. Unless he took the news very calmly and assured her that everything would be all right from the start. I would imagine he had to. There would be no point in making herself look good just to go over his house to fight and cry. Looks to me like maybe he told her that they needed to talk about getting back together, or maybe she wanted to feel empowered because she thought he'd try to talk her into having an abortion and she would refuse. Either way, she couldn't have been afraid to go to his house alone, so she did. I wonder if he planned to kill her, period, or if he was only going to kill her if she refused to have an abortion. I wonder if he asked her to. Just wondering because of what she told her friend, he said. Because her brother stated in his interview that they were raised Catholic, and I myself was raised Catholic, and Catholics are against abortion. So I wonder if that had anything to do with it. I'm so glad that Dudley didn't turn Cassie's cell phone off so police could track his movements. Stupid on his part, but I'm glad he didn't. I wonder, though, why it took police so long to get the GPS information off his truck, or the information from Cassie's phone in order to locate her body. Maybe because divers found her phone in the water, but still, why did it take almost a month from the time his truck was confiscated until they located her? Seems like an awful long time to me. Maybe it takes that long to get that kind of information. I don't know. But according to the search warrants, traces of blood were found in different parts of Dudley's basement and truck when they searched his home. So I wonder why they weren't able to locate her sooner. Now, we know how he was able to place her car where police found it without anyone's help. But I wonder if he was able to place her body where she was found without anyone's help. I watched a news report where a reporter walked from the road to the area right above where Cassie was found. It was a little ways. He would have had to carry her or drag her to that location from his truck in the road without being seen. So, probably at night. Cassie's brother said that where she was found was close to Dudley's brother's home. I wonder if he had help. If he placed her there at night, he needed an excuse to leave his house, so I wonder what he told his girlfriend he was leaving to do. Unless she was his help. Just thinking out loud. Not that I want to implicate her if she wasn't involved, because I don't. It just looked to me like he would have needed help, unless he dragged her. How Dudley didn't think that he'd be picked up on security footage at some point near the train station, I can't explain to you. Obviously, the guy's an idiot. The fact that he killed her in the manner that he did only exemplifies that. He had to have been very angry to stab her and fracture her skull, leaving blood evidence behind, when he could have chosen to strangle her or smother her instead. He was a monster and wanted her to feel the pain of his rage that he didn't get his way. How he thought he wouldn't get caught is far beyond me. I'm sure he thought if they searched his phone looking for communications with her, that they wouldn't find it, and he probably never thought that they'd recover her phone. He forgot about the GPS on his vehicle, the phone call to shut off his security system, the trace blood left in his basement, and the things that Cassie had told everyone else. I wonder if she told him that nobody knew about the pregnancy, or that nobody knew he was the father. Or maybe they agreed that she would keep the baby, never tell anyone he was the father, and he would have nothing to do with the child. Maybe that was why she wasn't afraid to go see him again alone after he already knew, because they came to an agreement where both sides would be happy. But then maybe he decided he didn't trust her not to tell, and decided she needed to go. These are just my thoughts about this case, right or wrong. Regardless of how it all played out, Cassandra didn't deserve to die. I hope Dudley gets the absolute maximum sentence he can possibly get, and I hope somehow Cassandra's family can find a way to live with it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on my next video.